welcome to ICSOM's new series of monthly videos to feature our musicians of color. I'm Paul Austin, ICSOM president and a horn player in the Grand Rapids Symphony. I couldn't be happier to have ICSOM musician, violinist Ines Voglar Belgique as our guest today. Inés was born in Venezuela, where she studied music under the ICSOM program. She attended college in Pittsburgh and performed for 2 seasons as an extra musician with the Pittsburgh Symphony. In 2004, Inés became a member of the Oregon Symphony. Today, she is their assistant principal, second violin, and recently a member of the Musicians Negotiation Committee. Inés and I are faculty members at Interlocken's Adult Chamber Music Camp, and I had the honor of performing with her last summer. It was a quintet arrangement of the Strauss tone poem, Till Eulenspiegel's Merry Planks, and it was a pleasure to work with her on that fun piece. Welcome, Inés.
Thank you, Paul. It was a pleasure to play with you. It's such a fun piece.
It was a lot of fun. You had a lot to do from what I remember.
It was a compilation of many instruments in once.
It was a treat for me too, but hey, let's get to those 5 questions. 5 questions for you. So number 1, do you recall the first time that you heard an orchestra? And if the answer is yes, please tell us about it.
Well, actually, I don't recall the first time I heard an orchestra. I was talking to my mom, and we never like went to a concert because there wasn't really an orchestra in my town yet. So the first orchestra concert that I went to was the one that I played in when I first started music. So we started. I started in a kindergarten, um, music kindergarten, and from there I transitioned to El Sistema. So that's how I became, involved in music. And I was talking to my mom too, that she said that we did never went to concerts, but I listened when I was pregnant. I listened to music, classical music, all the time. So you were listening in the womb.
That's really sweet. So the first time you heard an orchestra, you were actually playing in it. That's that's fascinating.
Yes, I was like third violin, very much in the back, playing open strings, but I was having so much fun. It was
See
amazing.
that. I really could see you doing that. Okay, so how about our next question? Of all the instruments in the orchestra, what led you to the violin?
There was nothing like aha or anything about it. I was in that kindergarten, music kindergarten that I attended. I think that what I remember, they showed us a few little instruments, and I think the violin just caught my attention. And from there, I started playing. I started lessons. I remember we signed up for private lessons at the Sistema. That's when I started. And my mom bought this violin, and we were on a trip to Slovenia for the first time. That's where my mom is from. And I made my mom bring the violin, even though I didn't really know how to play. She reminds me to this day. I remember I carried a violin on the whole trip.
Was there a moment when you knew that you wanted to become a professional musician?
Well, I I had always since I started, I was 6, and since I started, I always loved playing, and I always wanted to be in orchestra. And in fact, I was in orchestra as a parallel to school. I was in the El Sistema program, which was an after school program. And after I graduated from high school, I had a really good teacher, and I kind of took a gap year, um, two gap years from university, and I just focused on music. And even though I wasn't sure if I was gonna do it professionally, I was playing in the orchestra back at home. I had in my mind, well, I don't know if I can do this as a career. So I started university back in Venezuela for like chemical engineering. But it was a kind of tug of war. Like, I loved science and I loved the classes, but I was like, I really want to have the time to play and practice. And there were two moments that were kind of like opportunities, I will say. One, that while I was just in music, I went to a concert in Caracas, and the Boston Symphony was playing with Seiji Osawa, and they were playing Mahler 1.
Oh,
Oh, I get goosebumps just thinking about it. And I was like, oh my God. Just at the beginning of it, I was like, I'm like, ooh. That was amazing. That was like just remembering that moment. It was, and then it's this beautiful hall in Venezuela, the Teresa Carreño. Um, that was just wow. I don't think I at that moment I thought, oh, that's what I want to do, but it just kind of planted a seed in me, like, wow, this is something really, really, really special. Even though I have been playing in orchestra since I was six, that was just something that kind of sparkled. And then an opportunity came, which was auditions for a university in Pittsburgh, the Duquesne University, there was a Venezuelan teacher at the university, and they had this money. They had money for international students, and he said, "Well, just go to Venezuela and do auditions." So we saw the ad in the paper, and then we took the auditions, and six of us went, and that's there. The rest was history. The rest was like, well, if I can do music now, then that's what I'll do.
That's a great story. And I'm so sorry to the chemical engineering world that they've lost you, but good for us. We have you. That's really great. And the fact that it was the Boston Symphony that you heard in Caracas, that's really something.
Yeah, that was really special.
Many people say Mahler was the reason, so Mahler strikes again.
Yes.
Well, you performed as a member of the Oregon Symphony for many years. Is there a special concert that you will always remember?
Wow, there've been so many concerts, and I enjoy so many of them. But there were two concerts this season that were really, really so special. One of them was when we premiered the African American Requiem by Damien Jeter. I hope I say his name right. It was just, again, I just get goosebumps just thinking about it. The music was magical, was powerful. It was so well written, and I love playing new music, but this was so, I mean, it was just so relevant, and and the singers were amazing, and the choir, everything about it was just such an event, and so like powerful and emotional. I was like, wow, I can't believe we're doing this. And that was a really, really special moment, and I can't wait for that piece to be performed again and again in many, many other orchestras. And the other one that was equally powerful but so joyful, we had Nathalie Joachim, the flutist from Haiti, really famous composer and performer, and she wrote this piece, Suite of Femme IT. I'm not pronouncing it perfectly, but it's just about her heritage and her family, and it was just such a joy and such a celebration of the diversity of this country. That was like, to me, it's like, this is what we are about. And she was just so proud, and her music so full of folk and beauty and joy and celebration. That was like, oh, I just like enjoyed it so much. So that, I think that will be, from my more recent recollection, that those will be my top two.
Oh, that sounds pretty tremendous. Wow, how powerful both of those pieces.
Mhm.
Okay, we're ready for our final question. So, if today's Ines Voglar Belgique could give a piece of advice to herself during her student days, what would that be?
Oh boy.
Great question, huh?
Oh, yes. Oh, so many things. But I think that the most that kind of still resonates with me, that I still kind of remind myself, don't try to do everything, even though it seems like you have the time when you're young and then you want to do this and that. But it's like learn to say no to some things, learn to like be present on what you're doing, really focus and give it, and always give it all. Yeah, I think I try to do too many things, which I enjoy each of them, but sometimes I could get, overwhelmed. And I think if I had done just a little bit less and just focus a little bit more, I would remember more of those moments. So I think don't try to do everything.
That's good advice for a student, Inez, and also for adult Paul, too. I have a feeling, so that's great.
And, and for adult Ines too.
So now we're done with our 5 questions, and just a chance not a question, but if you want to have a final thought, to feel free to share anything that I haven't asked that you'd like for our followers to know.
Well, I'm thrilled and delighted and honored to be part of this series, and I enjoy celebrating all the different cultures and all the different backgrounds, and and I want us to be open all the different music that we can explore, and grateful for the opportunity that we have to do this, to have community, to promote so many different, how do I say this, like so many different facets of our life, like music can do so many things. Music can really do, even be involved in politics, or just like no politics per se, but like really reinforce, what I'm trying to say, environment, the diversity, um, support, the youth, and enhance, what we're trying to do. No, it's not. We're not. What I'm trying to say, we're not just musicians anymore, just playing music. We're more than that, and I think we can embrace that we can make a difference with our music when we really like put our heart to it. I hope that makes sense.
It does make sense, and that's really beautiful. Thanks so much for sharing that with us. And with that, we wrap up our conversation with ICSOM musician Ines Voglar Belgique. Ines, thank you so much for sitting down today with ICSOM so that we can get to know you a little more.
Thank you so much, Paul, for having me. Thank you.